Usually when we see a trade in the NFL, it's going to be a trade where a team is trying to get rid of a disgruntled player and get themselves maybe some draft pick currency and some salary cap savings. Or they're just trying to rebuild and take one of those assets that they have that can be valuable and turn them into some draft picks so they can build for the future and send them to a team that isn't so worried about the future because they're trying to win right here and right now. So they're willing to give up some draft picks for that guy, that aged veteran player that's more expensive because they feel like that might be that missing piece. It's very rare in the NFL today where you see one big name player being traded straight up for another big name player. And that's exactly what we got this week with the announcement that the Philadelphia Eagles have traded LeSean McCoy to the Buffalo Bills in exchange for Kiko Alonzo. This was a surprising trade. We didn't hear much about this in the way of rumors. This just like happened, and that's that. It's a fascinating trade to me. I'm going to talk about this trade from both teams' perspectives. In this video, I'm going to talk about it from the Eagles standpoint, and in my next video on this channel, I'm going to talk about it from the Buffalo Bills standpoint. But let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles and why this deal maybe does make sense for them and then maybe why it doesn't. We're talking about a LeSean McCoy that will be 27 years of age in July, who carries a cap figure north of $10 million for each of the next 3 seasons of his contract, whose production dropped in 2014 quite a bit compared to 2013. And also talking about a guy that in his 6 NFL seasons now has almost 1,800 combined touches between rushing the ball and catching the ball. That's a lot of wear and tear on a running back's body. That's a very big price to pay for a running back who's already going to be 27 this season. And we know that once running backs get around the age of 30, they start to decline, if not significantly. And when you look at the type of mileage on McCoy's body, the fact that sometimes he's had those nagging injuries, those little nicks and bump injuries in the past, you have to have concern if you're the Eagles. Is 2014 a sign of more decline to come? And are you going to be willing to tie yourself up into a shady McCoy for that type of cap figure for the next several years? Especially when you could sit there and acquire somebody like a Kiko Alonzo who fills a huge, massive need in that Eagles 3-4 defense. Look, you know, the identity of the Eagles is going to be on the offensive side of the ball. But with the offense that they run, they have to have more talent on defense because their defense is going to be on the field more. They need playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. To be able to get somebody like a Kiko Alonzo, who's only going to be 24 this year, that fills that huge gaping hole of a need that is the inside linebacker position in that defense, which I argue is almost every bit as big of a need as what everybody talks about with the cornerback position on that defense. You know, being able to do that and get them at a much cheaper price, and on top of that, not having to worry about potentially locking up Alonzo to a big long-term deal for another season, if not 2. This trade, you could argue, makes some real sense for the Philadelphia Eagles, especially knowing that this 2015 NFL draft class is really loaded at the running back position. So the Eagles were able to fill a huge need on defense, getting a younger, cheaper alternative that, you know, will still allow you in this draft to be able to potentially replace Shady McCoy with a productive running back that'll fit Chip Kelly's system in this deep and loaded running back class. So I can understand a lot of the reasons why the Eagles maybe did this, but and there are some things I just really questioned about it. You know, we can talk about Shady McCoy and his production decline in 2014, but let's look at some of the circumstances that did contribute to this. While he didn't play nearly as well as he did in 2013, I'll grant you, it's not exactly like he was terrible. He still rushed for over 1,300 yards, still averaged over 4 yards a carry, and all the while, the Eagles had cut in the offseason DeSean Jackson, so your top weapon on the outside is gone. So that's one less vertical threat that opposing defenses have to worry about. You're talking about an offensive line that dealt with injuries all year long, especially in the early portion of the season when McCoy really struggled. You had Lane Johnson miss the first 4 games of the season due to a substance abuse suspension. And you're talking about the quarterback play on that offense. Nick Foles wasn't nearly as effective or good in 2014 as he was in 2013. And then once he got hurt, you're bringing in Mark Sanchez for crying out loud. You expect Shady McCoy to produce at that exact same level he did in 2013, again in 2014, without the same offensive line blocking in front of him all year, without DeSean Jackson on the outside, and without Nick Foles having that incredible second half of the season that he did in 2013? I mean, you know, again, he was still pretty productive in a down year. And what I really don't understand about this from the Philadelphia Eagles standpoint is for such an offense-based team, and in particular such a run-oriented offense like the Eagles have, why would you trade your most pivotal and important offensive player, who still has some years under the belt, even if he does carry a big cap figure the next few years? That's a little bit puzzling to understand. And then when we talk about Kiko Alonzo, look, I'll acknowledge this guy is a very, very impressive young talent. But this is also a guy who missed all of 2014 with an ACL injury. It most certainly didn't seem like Buffalo's defense missed him, because they were even better in 2014 without him than they were in 2013 with him. While ACL injuries seem to be easier to come back from nowadays, there's no guarantee still that Kiko Alonzo is going to be that same player that he flashed as a rookie in 2013. So you're bringing in a guy where a team was better off without him the next year than when they had him the previous year, and he's coming off of a major knee injury. And you're also filling one need by creating another huge need. It just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. Part of the purpose of making moves is to try and get better, not necessarily make lateral moves. And I'm not necessarily going to just suggest that this is a lateral move for the Philadelphia Eagles, because I think long-term they may have come out a little bit on the better end of it. However, with that said, you're trading away one of the best all-around running backs in the National Football League. And I don't care what anybody says about the devaluing of the running back position or how easy it is to replace running backs. Then if that's the case, then why doesn't everybody have a stud? It's that simple. It's not that easy. You have now created a huge gaping void in that offense with no real bell cow back to be able to take that over. What, you're going to tell me Chris Polk and Darren Sproles alone are going to get the job done? I don't think so. You've created one huge need just to fill another one, to where now you are still going to have to devote money in free agency, another trade, and or draft picks to being able to try to replace Shady McCoy. Does that really make a whole lot of sense, especially for an Eagles team that made the playoffs in 2013, won 10 games, even though they missed the playoffs in 2014? This is a team that's on the cusp. This is a team that, with a couple of the right moves made in the right places, could contend right away. Is trading away LeSean McCoy going to get you any closer to being a championship contending team, even if that brings in Kiko Alonzo? At the end of the day, this trade to me is all about two words: Chip Kelly. And the reason I say that is, now with Chip Kelly taking over personnel control, being the HNIC of all the Eagles that you see, to me, this is him trying to put his stamp on this team. He is trying to make a statement. And maybe in part, he's trying to sit there and mold this team in his image. Maybe he felt Shady McCoy was not the best presence in the locker room. That's something we can't know from the outside looking in, but there has to be something more to it. For him to be willing to cut Deshaun Jackson before the 2014 season, and now after the 2014 season, he's traded away their other star weapon they had on offense in Shady McCoy. To me, this is about them trying to sit there and fill holes on the defensive side of the ball, making me wonder if they're going to spend some in free agency, part of the reason why they cleared out Shady McCoy and his cap hit, in order to fill other holes, because they're getting ready to make a big move in the draft. That's possible. I'm not going to say that's a guarantee or a definite, but some of the posturing, some of the positioning that I'm seeing would lead me to believe that that could very well be the case. And for those of you, though, that sit there and say, well, he just traded for Kiko Alonzo because he was a former Oregon Duck, he played for Chip Kelly. I'm sure that familiarity didn't hurt. I'm sure it helped just a little bit. But I don't think Chip Kelly is going out there just seeking to surround himself with 53 former Oregon Ducks. I don't. You know, we could talk about, well, he drafted Josh Huff in the 3rd round last year. Well, Josh Huff was a 3rd-round talent in my mind, if not a late 2nd-round talent in my mind. He was a good talent at a position of somewhat need, and he fit what the Philadelphia Eagles wanted to do. He just happened to play at Oregon. So that doesn't mean to me that Chip Kelly is just trying to make himself the Philadelphia Oregon Ducks. Now, if he goes and trades 3 drafts away from Marcus Mariota, that's a different conversation at a different time. But I'm just not sure how good this deal is for the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, you're getting Kiko Alonzo. He's younger, cheaper, and fills a huge area of need. But it's not that easy to just trade somebody the likes of Shady McCoy. And even though he was getting up there in running back age a little bit and carried a huge cap figure, this is a team that was very reliant upon that running game over the past 2 seasons and very reliant upon Shady McCoy. I just don't see where it benefits them tremendously, short-term or long-term, to move on from this guy. But you let me know what you think. Do you think the Eagles made out like bandits on this one, or do you question this move and are trying to figure out what the hell Chip Kelly is doing. Let me know in the comments down below.